My name is Andreas Wuchner. I spent the last 26 years doing cybersecurity. Had the pleasure to be the CISO of companies like Novartis, of UBS, ran security for a company like Deutsche Bank, ran security and risk management for Credit Suisse, and was the CTO for EMEA for HP globally. But in parallel, I started 16 years ago to be an advisor and an angel investor into cybersecurity startups. And I had the pleasure to really work with really great companies over the years. And lately, I'm now an investor and advisor to Venari Security. Given that I'm do early stage investments, so I'm not, B is the last round, CD, I'm not powerful enough for, and I don't invest enough money, primarily people. It's really, is there someone who burns for a topic? Can I understand the topic? That's why I only do cyber. I would say in 90% of the cases I understand cyber topics. And I can say, okay, is there a case for it? How is the person? How is the team? How is that idea? Do they understand who to sell it to? What is it? What is, often people say, oh, we sell it to the CISO. Okay, good. And we just heard before, right? CISO sell is expensive, it's difficult. So that kind of stuff, did they do their homework? Do they have a vision really to go to market? Is there something that, okay, I can help them really with? And because I know what the investors in A and B will look for, right? So what I do is really guide them to, or that we have the basics ready. And if the investor of the A round comes and say, hey, where's your financial sheet? Where's your term sheet? Where is it this? Where's this? That you have at least something where they say, oh, cool, they've done their homework. And then you have a good multiplier. And if they're then moving it forward, then did 13 investments so far and 11 worked out. So it works somehow. A lot of things. First of all, the topic is super hot. It is a topic which a lot of people don't understand yet, with the consequence that we still need to develop that market and that understanding. And a very clear understanding on the Venari side that the topic is too small for an IPO. This will never be a standalone multi-billion-dollar company, but it's a huge proposition for a takeover, for a buyout. And so the whole strategy, which Tom explained to me, is very focused, very clear. And the network which Tom and the team has, I know a lot of the people from the team already, worked with Simon before at FireEye and things like that. Just trust, right? That goes back. People, a vision, a direction, I understand it, I see the problem, I can help. It's an easy one. When it comes to third-party vendor risk, it's a huge topic, right? And every organization has to focus on it in one way or the other. The bigger firms are used to it already because they have regulatory requirements and regulators are telling them you need to watch out. There's on the other side laws, or there are laws around like GDPR, which forces you to understand what your third parties and fourth parties doing. And given the fact, if you look at more than 60, some say more than 70% of all successful cyber attacks come indirectly through cyber attacks to third parties or vendors and partners, it becomes very clear how much of a big topic it is. And most of us are not only customers of third parties, we are also vendors to others, right? So it's a problem, a bidirectional problem. Just because I do a great job in my own house doesn't mean that my suppliers do a good job. And even if my suppliers do a great job and I mess up on my side, I may take my customers on risk. So it's a huge topic. And there are different angles to third-party vendor risk. And traditionally, there are companies out there which saying, hey, outside in view, we look at the technology, we scan your parameter, and we say you're good, you're bad, you're ugly, all that stuff. They give you a score, but it doesn't say anything at the end because the score is just a point in time. The score tells it's okay-ish, but there's no action you can really take on. And so therefore it's fluffy. So that's why a lot of companies have moved to an inside-out view, paper-based, a review, paying the big fours a lot of money to really say, hey, how to do it, we help you, we assess companies and sell it then multiple times. But that's theory, right? That's just theory. People answering some questions And there are modern ways to do it, and brokers which help to make it easier and faster, so that security is not becoming a blocker for business. But at the end, you never really know where you stand. And there are so many new technologies. This whole COVID discussion, it's pushed so heavily towards digital transformation. Everyone goes digital. If you want to do big business and new business, you need to be in real time online. So the topics which are coming triggered from that new setup are new, right? So, and third-party vendor risk, the topic of, for example, encryption, encrypted traffic is huge, because all of a sudden you have customer to business, business to business, and you never really know how safe is your data, where is your data. And if you look specifically to the network operator and all the connectivity topics in between, then you will figure out that a lot of companies are completely flying blind. They signed contracts where they say, yeah, all our traffic is encrypted in motion and in rest. We use modern technologies. But if you start asking simple questions, hey, who is owning the topic of encryption? Then you look into blind eyes and say, I don't know, it's not me, it's not the CISO, it's not IT, it's the business. I don't know, that's already a problem. And so the modern way of third-party vendor management needs modern ways and more broader views in the stack to really cover all the attack vectors possible. And therefore it's a huge topic. It really depends. There's no silver bullet to it, or you're not the one truth really. Big enterprises, in the meantime, have a chief data officer. So the person owns should, in my eyes, own encryption, because he also or she owns the topic of classification. When is data critical? When does it need to be protected? Which standards need to be applied to safeguard data? And in my eyes, this person should have final oversight and ownership of encryption. Encryption has a lot of operational elements, and that's clear that somewhere in IT and security plays a role, but ownership is business in my eyes. And if there is a chief data officer, it should be him or her. And if there's no chief data officer, I would look into the privacy angle and the legal angle rather than in an IT department. When it comes to encryption, we really need to be very clear. Encryption is not a new topic, right? Encryption is out there since many, many, many years. And also the operational challenges around encryption are there since many, many years. But again, now with the drive coming from COVID and the move towards a more digital ecosystem, it just becomes a more clearer problem, and it needs new approaches. And it needs to have now a clear ownership. Before, when you said, okay, I encrypt data within my network, that's one thing. Now you have a lot of third parties involved. You have a lot of different entities on the way, end to end, being involved. And with that, you really need to be clear on who owns keys, who manages keys, also certificates. Nowadays, if a certificate expires, everyone feels it very quickly because the business is gone, right? If there is no proper certificate anymore. But what's much worse is that often you have situations that people think they encrypt, and in reality they don't, because something has expired, something is not active anymore, and the reality is a very different one than what they thought. And again, to go back to the topic earlier, what they signed up for in contracts. When it comes to security overall, security is often seen as a hindering factor, right? It's bad, it's negative. Security people stop creative people from doing the right things and slowing things down. And I think that's not fair anymore. There's so much a security organization, an organization per se, can do around security to have basic security levels which everyone can use. And if they are proper communicated and if they're the default, everyone knows if I do the minimum thing, there is a much easier way to enabling business, to empower business to do things. I guess the biggest problem is whenever security people are not straight, when they say A today and B today in the afternoon, and maybe Y or Z on Friday, right? So subjective things are a killer for security. There's this topic of shortage of resources in security, right? Which always get used. Oh, we cannot do this now. There's so many other tasks. As long as someone is not telling me this is more important, I will just do that is all negative, right? There's a negative tension. And I think we need to overcome that because it's not necessary. I know we are all overwhelmed with work. There's more work than money we have. There are more work than resources we have. But there's so many opportunities now. Automation is a topic. Using modern technologies is a topic. And to really make this shift, to have a positive attitude, to have a positive approach, it is doable these days. The financial services sector is clearly leading in the space of security. There are always these outliers, where a lot of people have a lot of money. But for the industry overall, the financial services sector is clearly leading the bunch. And the investments which go into security and into the different technologies, plus the regulatory pressure in this sector, is a clear driver for other industries. And so therefore, I think it's a really, really good point that the providers, the service providers, the technology providers work closely with the financial service institutions to really overcome these basic hurdles, to make it doable, make it workable, using the power of a big bank to really get things optimized so that it can go into the wider areas, into the other verticals, which allows them to get security in place for lower costs because the whole development stuff, the whole optimization stuff has been done with the banks. Banks are a target, right? Just face it. Wherever there's money to be made, people go after it. At the same time, it's really surprising how many smaller businesses get attacked, how many mid-size banks, financial service institutions, fintechs, but also pharma companies get attacked directly or indirectly and lose $1 million here, $3 million there, pay ransom, right? The national organizations are still not very clear. Should we pay ransom? Is it okay? Is it not okay? This debate is still up in the air. And we need to get better. Just point, full stop. There's nothing more to say than let's use the momentum and the drift we have from this COVID thing to really get better and to really empower everyone, doesn't matter of the size, to use security technologies which are workable, doable, and not overly complex. One of the killers for security is the legacy, right? Because whenever you talk with a CISO, whenever you talk with a service provider, it always comes back, oh, we would love to do that, but we have legacy systems. Oh, this is a qualified system, we cannot touch it. And complexity, especially with legacies, is a killer for everyone. There's a time to overcome this, right? And if you follow closely what the cloud security people do, or the cloud enablement, this micro-segmentation, containerization, that's what needs to happen everywhere. Okay, there are technologies, lab environment, for example, I cannot put into a cloud, right? Because these are physical machines. They are 20-year-old. They run Windows 95 in the worst case, right? But I still need to have them because they produce really valuable data, which is even qualified then. So to get an approach which is positively supporting legacy without making the whole setup more complex, that's very, very valuable. And it's very similar to the topic we talked about before about automation, reduction or containment of complexity, right? If I can say, look, oh, here's a complex system and I contain it, but I make it integrated and secure in the overall picture, that's a very valuable thing. And if I can, for example, say, oh, I know it's using an old, outdated security protocol, it's not capable of doing more. But if I, for example, can monitor that it does exactly what it's supposed to do, there's value to be made, right? I cannot change it. I cannot, make it disappear easily, but let's monitor it and that I see deviations as soon as they happen and not 20 years later or whatever later, they say, look, oh, yeah, that was the source, right? Because legacy systems, most of them don't get monitored. What should I do with the Windows 95 system, right? There's nothing, no one, it's not sexy, no one wants to deal with it, but it's there. So let's get a proper fencing around it, a proper protection around it, and a proper monitoring. And then all of a sudden, it's not a pain point anymore. It's a clear exception, because what we all do today is risk-based approaches. We understand the risk, we monitor the risk, and then this is not an unknown anymore. Legacy is just everywhere, right? Every vertical has legacies. If you go to a bank, they have a mainframe. A lot of mainframe developers are not alive anymore, but the bank need to have it because of regulatory requirements, right? 30 years to keep data. Cool. If you go to the airline industry, look at a modern airplane, how much legacy is in there. Go to the pharmaceutical industry, how many lab equipment is qualified for 30 years. It's legacy. So the topic is everywhere. Every CIO in an organization has to face legacy in one way or the other. The one who has a proper approach, how to handle it, is the winner. You know, if anyone goes reactive, everything a little different and everything hoping and all that stuff, that fails. Sooner or later, it fails. A standard approach, how to deal with legacy, how to apply controls, security controls to legacy, that's the key to success. I guess one of the most known regulatory requirements, especially here in Europe, is GDPR. Right? GDPR was looked at the beginning, saying, oh, yeah, okay, another regulation. But it became really powerful. It got teeth, and the world really started to look at it. And the good thing is they also walked the talk, right? We had the famous example of BA, which paid at the end 20+ million of a fine for not handling data correctly. There was Amazon, which paid something like 500 million for not handling and not being in line with the GDPR requirements. So that's good, right? For the companies to have a clear set of rules to how to maintain and protect customer data. Super. For the customer, for you and me, it's even more powerful, right? I now have a right to ask for my data. I have a right to forget data, right? I can go back to the Googles and say, look, these pictures are not appropriate, they shouldn't be there, and they have to delete them, right? So it's a huge step forward. At the same time, it's a huge burden, right? Because going back to the legacy topic, going to the distributed topic, going to the topic of third-party dependencies, your data is everywhere. And nowadays, it's not good enough anymore if you don't know where your data, you really need to know where your data is, who has access, who can manipulate it, where is it processed versus where is it stored. You know, there are so many aspects to look at it. It's not an easy topic, but overall, the maturity has grown up heavily based on the GDPR requirements. And so with that, even if it was a pain for me many times, I think for the overall economy and us as customers, it has brought a major step forward. The world is a more safer place from a data point of view since GDPR is enforced. There are so many new technologies, you know, this whole COVID discussion, it's pushed so heavily towards digital transformation. Everyone goes digital. Everyone, if you want to do big business and new business, you need to be in real time online. So the topics which are coming triggered from that new setup are new, right? So, and third-party vendor risk, the topic of, for example, encryption, encrypted traffic is huge, because all of a sudden you have customer to business, business to business, and you never really know how safe is your data. Again, going back to the topic from before with COVID, now everyone goes mobile. There's a mobile app for everything. And guess what? Not every mobile app is a good mobile app, right? So there are people, creative and hackers are there to make money. So with that constant attack vector changing, and with the regulatory requirement being constantly high, plus the external auditors, which are really scrutinizing all the capabilities. Are you really doing what you're saying? You say you use a green cable. Are you using a green cable, right? That kind of stuff. That's one of the reasons why even in these economical downturns, security is still very, very stable, right? It's not skyrocketing anymore, but if you see compared to many other technology shares and markets, security is a very stable environment. In my own career, I was super lucky that I just started when this whole security topic came up, right? People talked about automation in Salesforce. Salesforce people got a laptop for the first time. They had to dial back home. They could see doctors with a, instead of brochures, they had something to tell them. So I was really, really fortunate, lucky that I was at the beginning of this whole journey. And as always, you have a couple of people who support you. You're lucky with the timing, which makes a great career. I would not change a single thing looking backwards. I would maybe get a little more patient because, I've forced too many things. Because for me, if I have a plan A, I'm not looking for a plan B. If plan A fails, then I look for another way to make plan A work, right? So that's me. If I see students today, absolutely, join the tribe. Security is such a hot topic, and the way has changed, right? The platforms have changed. Now we do everything in cloud. We have more mobile apps, all that stuff. But there's so many areas which are completely untapped, where security still needs to develop, where security can become an enabler more and more. So totally yes, if there is a way, and you are technology affine or risk affine, even if you are kind of an MBA person, but you understand risk, look into this whole cyberspace, because there is in the meantime, two roads, right? It's not a pure technology road. You don't need to turn bits and bytes around just to be a security person. Modern CISOs, they're all having an MBA background. They have either a financial background, they have risk background, because if you talk to a board, they don't care about technology 1 or 2 or 3. They talk about bottom line savings, top line growth, risk remediation. They talk about making customers happy, having workforces which are happy, all that stuff, and not about, oh, we caught 3 viruses today. Yoo-hoo. They don't even know what you're talking about, right? So therefore, there is a huge opportunity. And specifically, and I guess that goes back to the discussion we also had earlier, there is a huge opportunity also for females, right? We see, and I'm really, really happy and proud that we see more and more ladies and females going into this space, because the mixture of the communication styles, the way how to deal with problems became, over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, much different than before, and that's a very good thing. I got often asked what's the perfect CISO should look like and where he should or she should report to. And, I know CISOs don't like that, but at the end, it doesn't matter where they report to, depending on the company, the culture, and the character of the person who does it. Sometimes people report in IT. CIO can work perfectly well. Some people report to a CRO, Chief Risk Officer, that can completely work well as well, given that the person needs to talk risk, right? Some areas you have a COO reporting line, which is much more business driven and things like that. So for me, reporting doesn't matter. Depending on the culture of the company, depending on the person, that for me makes the point where to report to. When it comes to the perfect CISO, the world looks different for me. The CISO is one and almost about talking, communicating the state of the art to board members, to the board overall, to the management team, to shareholder, to stakeholders, investors even. Often I've been on many investor calls where the people wanted to know, how good is your security really? What are you doing? So proper capabilities to communicate straight a message. That's for me the number 1 requirement for modern CISO. Number 2 is risk, understanding what risk is all about. And there's always this question, is risk more an art or is risk more a science? Risk overall is an approach which is known for many, many decades, right? And financial risk management, geopolitical risk management, that's all known. And if you go to World Economic Forum, they have everything for you, what and how. When it comes to cyber, it's not that mature. The reason is very simple. Whenever we talk about finance risk or operation risk, there are clear money values involved. In cyber, that's really, really rarely the case. Not many organizations, if any at all, can really tell you how much money is involved in which business process and which system and which company supports the business process end to end. And with that, the numbers which are coming out there are often yellow, green, red, but not a money value. So, and with that, it is more of an art than a science. So there are ways in a standardized framework to say, okay, I have my metrics, I have my thresholds, I measure if it goes beyond or below this threshold, it becomes red or it's green. But still, it's not, 3 million are on the line, 30 million are on the line. I started my career in the healthcare world, right? If a person's life is on the line, that's paramount, right? However money you may lose, that doesn't matter. A person's life, that's the ultimate risk you have, right? And that's what when you then come in as a CISO and say, but I have this IT risk. Is anyone dying from it? No? Okay, good, right? So that's the thing really. A perfect CISO needs to communicate, talk risk, and understand technology, right? I think it's more and more difficult if you're pure technology-driven CISO. And I know that there are CISOs out there which are pure tech people and are very successful. But they have people then around who do the other bit. You cannot survive, especially when you're new in an environment, without the other two bits of risk and communication. The entire topic of standardization and standardized approaches is a very interesting one, right? If you take a compliance framework like NIST, for example, they talk about protection, detection, response, recover, and inform, right? These are the 5 standard capabilities you should care about as an information security specialist and have your controls around to really understand your posture and how risky is what you're really doing. When you look into this whole encryption topic and where do I have encryption, what do I encrypt, how secure is it, you need, in my personal eyes, 3 capabilities. You have the whole compliance angle, right? Where you really say, which compliance requirements do I have? Which kind of legal obligations did I sign up for? And what's the outside view, my partners, as a big topic, right? So compliance is a major driver. Then I have this whole topic of insight, because as I mentioned before, or alluded to before, to have encryption is one thing, but is the encryption really doing what it's supposed to do or what we wanted it to do? That's a very, very different thing, right? And so therefore, to really have a capability to understand what I have, to monitor the stuff, very important. And the third one is for me a fundamental detection capabilities. And detection capability is for me nothing else than baselining. I know what's normal, and any deviation from normal I want to know. Give a simple example. If someone is successful in taking a ransomware or something into a company, they all communicate encrypted back home. So it's too late, it happened, right? But if I have the detection capability to say, oh, there's a new connection which shouldn't be there, I'm really spot on and really early on, right? Not 3 weeks later, or when all of a sudden the ransom has been distributed everywhere and all the machines are blocked. I get it very early on. So therefore, compliance, insight, detect, these are the 3 capabilities which I would expect from my team when it comes to encryption to really understand. One of the really surprising elements of doing security is always often something needs to happen first before people wake up and are willing to spend money on it, right? And we all know that prevention is more powerful than curing afterwards, right? If you do sports and live healthy, the probability that you have a good life is much bigger than if you're not and you have heart problems and so on. We all know that, right? But knowledge does not necessarily transform into doing the right thing. Standard human being, right? I should not smoke, but I still do it because I like it, right? That's the kind of thing. So the earlier we can move into a business process, into a technology stack, and can prevent things from happening, the better it is. And we all know from time to time something needs to happen, but I would encourage every CISO, every head of security, every head of risk management to really go prevention, prevention, prevention. Have detection capabilities in place. Sure, you need to know if something goes wrong, but you also in your car don't have a system which tells you if you would have braked earlier, you could have prevented that accident, right? No, you have an automatic brake system which keeps you from having the accident. That's the idea, and that's the same thing for security. On the other side, if you look into pure risk management practice, risk management, one element of risk management is to ensure with that move and risk to someone else, right? You accept the risk, you remediate the risk, you insure risk, you just move it somewhere else. So question there is, can you really transfer and insure such a risk? And I would say you shouldn't. For the simple reason that the cyber insurance organization, they lose a lot of money these days because of these ransomware attacks and people not being really on top with their security controls. And with that, the scrutiny on their side will be higher and higher and higher, and is higher and higher. And a lot of companies are struggling to get any kind of insurance coverage for cyber incidents anymore because of that missing level of control maturity. And there again, if you have a proper protection mechanism and you have your insights, you know where you're compliant and that this all works, and you have a detection control which helps you if something goes wrong, I think you're pretty well set and you're ready for every insurance policy. The topic of digital transformation and the pervasiveness of digital services is just everywhere, right? Our parents are now doing online purchasing. They order things on Amazon, and especially during lockdown, right? They became very creative, and all of a sudden, this is just everywhere. And that's, I think, one of the really rare areas where COVID had really a positive impact, right? Because not only that we got much faster, we have now a hybrid working environment, which, to be honest, would we really have believed 3 years ago that we would get to that fast? I don't think so. And all the old style bosses were now saying, oh, you need to come back, and get a huge pushback from the people saying, no, I feel much safer at home and I save a lot of money. So the positive thing there is that COVID was a huge technology driver and still is. And with that, the whole security topic became even more pushed. Again, there's this personal element. Now that I'm working from home or that I'm working from Starbucks or from any other coffee shop, change in culture, change in way we work, but also change in how we train people and how we inform what's right and wrong. And again, we talked before about knowledge not necessarily being a catalyst or an insurance for doing the right thing. We all know that the network at Starbucks is not protected, and I can easily tap in and listen, and still the people do banking there, right? So that's the thing. So that has a change. But overall, for the security world, this has it's a boost, right? This is a booster because companies went to cloud, which wasn't thought of before that. Cloud security in general is much bigger and much better than what most of the organizations have in-house, even if, believing to Amazon's statistics, 70% of the security tools have not been used by many clients because they don't have the capabilities. But overall, the security maturity of the cloud offerings are better than the one here. So overall, for the security industry, for the working thing, and also for the cyber culture topic, COVID was a really good thing. And it helped us as an economy to move forward, to make steps forward. And besides all the negative things, besides all the tragedy which happened there, from a technology point of view, it's a really valuable thing. So when you look into the shift of working style, working from home, all of a sudden, mom and dad being at home the entire day, plus taking care of the kids, homeschooling and all that stuff, ended up in very bizarre situations. Because the laptop was open there, not locked. The 6-year-old, oh, cool, let's play. Let's go for a web browser, and dad just doing something, or mom just doing something else. There were tons of incidents, right? And things which were, and I said incidents on purpose, right? Not accidents, incidents. They may clicked on something which they shouldn't, which triggered an alarm. They went to web pages which are blocked on the company, which triggered alarms and things like that. So there was a learning in the security space as well, right, culturally. And you see that a lot of organizations have shifted their training and awareness approaches. And I think if you look, Forrester just issued a report, I think 3 months ago or something like this, where they said the traditional way of training is dead, doesn't work. Knowledge doesn't bring cyber DNA and cyber secure DNA to people. You need to talk about behaviors. You need to do things which enables the people to be really on top of their own security. And they made this example that when you leave the house in the morning, you're not thinking about locking the door or not. It's in your DNA. You lock the door. Even if you are on countryside living, you lock the door. With your computer, you don't, right? It's at home, it's secure. That the kids or someone else, the person living with you, you don't see as an enemy or a risk factor, right? So there is a lot of change, and it's good change, right? Because the more cyber aware we become, the more we have a cyber DNA, which allows us to maneuver the internet and the space securely, the overall economy wins, and we will be a safer place. Why do people fall to cyber incidents? Why do they click on things? There's some kind of good practice, right? What we can do to make things a little easier. One for sure is, just don't trust everyone. Just be clear. Is there a real reason behind that there is pressure that someone says, oh, you need to do this now? Is there a real reason why the CEO would send me a private email or an email to my private account? Scrutiny, just don't trust anyone. The other one is just look a little bit outside the box. Hoovering over an email link, for example, helps often to discover that this is not, it says A, but it does C. Look at the email address, hoovering over it. Oh, it comes from a country which my boss is not located in. That makes a lot of sense. So having some kind of scrutiny and checking and validating thing helps for sure. And then last but not least, not only because there is a free network available or there is capability available to use, you have to use it. If you have critical money transaction to be done and there is pressure, do it somewhere where it's a safe place, right? Go to your bank, go to a network where okay, look, that's the network I trust, that's my own network or someone of a friend. Don't do it at Starbucks, don't do it wherever one does it, because the ability to tap and to steal data is so big, and so common sense helps a lot. The question about what to do and how to be safer in the world today is a really good one. And I would say we should just really think, because is it really legitimate that the police comes and want to take the jewelry from you because they heard about someone wants to break into your house? Just make sense of things, right? Often cyber attacks to us end customers work with pressure. It's the last chance. That's how the advertisement works. Oh, you showed interest into that dress. That's the last one in your size. And oh, I need to have it, right? So that pressure thing, just be aware, is there real pressure? Would the CEO of my company really send me an email to my private email address? And would his email address come out of Russia? Just make sense of things. Just don't be so super trusty with things. I'm always amazed if you're a cyber specialist in one way or the other, and you fly a lot or sit in trains a lot, how many people are in the train on the phone talking about customer information, talking about business things. How many people you see laptop open with the sticker, with the password and things like that. I have tons of pictures in my gallery where I took pictures from people around me, in front of me, with a password sticker on it, right? And still today, it is still there. It's the, common sense, guys, right? If this is something which is serious, then use a password manager, right? Have one password, a strong one, which you remember, and have a password manager doing the rest. So don't be stupid, right? And that's for sure something. The other thing is, which is good, we trust a lot, right? People, we trust people, we always think about the good things in people, but sometimes it's really good to question, saying, okay, hey, no, you can use my Wi-Fi connection from my phone, all that stuff. We don't talk about corporate espionage, right? I have seen in organizations simulations where people brought up or built up network zones and Wi-Fi zones which were faked, right, just to steal information. If there's energy and financial means behind, you will not get it, just be clear. But a lot of stuff happens to us, especially when it comes to identity theft, which is mostly based on our laziness, too much trust, not questioning things. Sometimes hoovering over a link shows you, or hoovering over an email address, that's most probably not right. And this coupled with some scrutiny and, I think we would be in a much better place. You asked me what has changed, right? What are the new things? And I just came back from RSA in San Francisco, and I was also here at InfoSec in London lately. And there's one thing which I've never seen before, and it's not technology, it's a human thing. Before, every CISO was saying, no, I have security under control, I manage my risk, never had an incident, everything is cool. All of a sudden, an incident, a successful incident, seems to be a trophy. People are saying, look, that's an achievement. I have survived and I managed through a cyber incident, which is a change, right? This is an incredible change. Like, if you're a Formula 1 driver and said, yeah, I survived a major accident. That's not normal, right? That's just a major shift in what the people are proud of. And I think that for me, besides the themes and the technology activities at RSA, that was the biggest thing in mindset change I've ever seen at a conference like this. And I think this is good, right? Don't get me wrong. It's a really good thing because, if you talk with someone who works for an ambulance or a police officer who are used to face off to emergency situations, for them it's totally normal. They know what to do if you're on the street, if you have an accident. And we in security need to develop exactly the same capability. It shouldn't be an, oh my God, what are we doing now? It's a standard capability. We need to be able to react. And with that, I think this is a really, really good thing. The overall technology stack hasn't really reinvented itself, right? There are a lot of old components. And, one of the most favorite topic for me at the moment is this whole network topic. We talk about networks since 19 whatever, right? The internet, and we had local area networks, we had WANs, and now we call it cloud, connectivity and all that stuff. But all of a sudden, and standard technology, we could call it legacy, old technology, old topic, like network, becomes super hip again and became a new focus all of a sudden, a new focus area even, right? And if you look, we talked about encrypted traffic, right? This is a standard network A to B, data goes from A to B and we have that. But in the meantime, the old mechanisms don't work anymore. And because the business moved on, the technology moved on, so the old approaches need to adapt and we need new approaches. And it's quite interesting to see the life cycle again. So often you hear, oh, that's old technology, I forget I don't need to do this, and especially in universities, we don't teach that anymore. But you see that this déjà vu, this comeback, these life cycles of technology, very interesting. So, and we talked about the CISO and having the technology understanding. I am a strong believer that when you understand the fundamentals of IT, you will also be in 20 years at a safe place, because nothing has come up so totally new. Oh, we moved from IP version 4 to IP version 6. Oh yeah, that's very different, but the fundamentals are still the same. We talked about DNS as name resolution for networks. Now we do secure DNS. If you understand how DNS works, you know, and you have a grab on how to handle secure DNS, right? So therefore, it's a good thing. And so fundamentals are important. Fundamentals are to be learned. And if you know the fundamentals, you can always take the different views and you will never be completely lost. We talked about the problems and challenges coming with encrypted traffic, right? And with the move to more agile work environments, different work styles, which brings new challenges to our environment. And you asked me why I'm involved in Venari, why I'm supporting Venari. And for me, the trick really is that Venari offers the capability to shine a light and to create solutions for something which is obviously broken. Now you can question, but if it's broken, why it's not, such a huge topic? Because we as security specialists have a long list of things we need to fix. And this is relatively new that it's broken, that the technology makes us now more and more clear that, oh yeah, we have to do something there. And what Venari really brings is first awareness. There is a problem, but not only there is a problem, there is a solution how to handle it. And there's a capability to also monitor it in case you cannot solve it, right? And that's for me was one reason for me why I was spot on saying, look, I'm absolutely helping and support Venari on this mission to attack and tackle this encrypted traffic challenge. The CISO journey is a quite long one, right? Since 20 years, we talk about security, we talk about the role of a CISO. They were not always called CISOs, they were called head of IT security or IT security, whatsoever. And the title doesn't really matter, but we came a long, long way. And in the meantime, the CISO is a partner of a board, right? And this is a trusted source which owns a seat at the table because it brings value. The role talks a language which the people understand. It has the capability of transform complex information into business relevant data. And there's a reason why in the meantime, a lot of CISOs have not a technology background, and why a lot of CISOs are also females, right? Because they're different. They have a good style, they have a communication style. And that's a very, very positive thing. And often I get asked from people or by people, should I really go for a CISO role? Because it has operational responsibilities, phone calls at nights, disasters to happen, threats from all over the place. Is it worth to do that with the money I'm getting? And I said, absolutely. If you're a freak, be careful. But if you love the challenge, if you love communicating, if you love or are passionate about people and exchanges with higher management, absolutely go for it. It's an absolutely blast to do. If you are missing it, you will know it after meeting one, because you will never be invited again, or sidelined or whatsoever. So it is a risk. That's what this business is all about. It's well paid. And so you need to own the grade or the pay grade. And but definitely, I would highly recommend it to everyone to do it if the passion is there. I get often asked why I'm choosing startup companies and why I'm supporting startup companies. And for me, there are a couple of main points. What I personally watch out for. So one is the individual or the team really driving the idea. Is the person burning for it? Is that a topic which I can understand, which they can bring to me that I say, oh yeah, click it, yep, tuck, got it, let's work on this. That's one thing. The other thing is what the message really is. Is this an old problem? Is this a new problem? Is this something which needs development? Or is this something with smart intellectual property to tackle something new? And if I look at Venari, when I had the first interactions with Venari and the management team, they ticked all the boxes, right? The team, very experienced, a lot of people which worked in other tech startups before, a management who have done it before successfully, and problem space, which I understand, which I see it's growing, and go-to-market approach, which I totally get, because it's not only a security problem, it's an ownership, a governance problem, who to talk to and all that stuff. So Venari ticked for me many, many boxes, and I'm not regretting that I did join the initiative and the tribe, and that I'm part of it.